thanks everybody for joining Same Therapy, Different Couch today. We've got the founder of Telebehavioral Health.us with us. This is the first of our new Ascent series, some entrepreneurial webinars presented by Good Impacts. We're helping guide ethical entrepreneurs along their business journey. We provide a whole bunch of different services, everything from project design and implementation all the way through helping organizations create systemic change within their industry. If you'd like to find out more about that, please visit goodimpacts.com. A couple of quick housekeeping notes. I'm assuming at this point in our COVID journey, this is not everybody's first webinar. But everybody is muted and your cameras are off, and we'll leave it that way for the duration of our conversation. Please feel free to throw any questions you may have along the way in either the Q&A or chat functions at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we'll save about 8 to 10 minutes at the end of this 30-minute webinar for questions. A couple of quick notes about me so we can get to the much more interesting Susie. I started Good Impacts in 2018 to support ethical businesses as champions for change. I've got a background in a number of areas, including journalism, NGO fund development, leadership, and supply chain, specifically coffee community supply chain work. Let's talk about Susie. Way more interesting. So she... I don't think she's a bragger, but I'll brag for her. She was one of the first clinicians to begin to adopt this telebehavioral health model in Michigan, and in many ways, one of the first in the country. She's been providing behavioral health for over a decade and a half, and specifically telehealth since 2014. Susie, feel free to stop me if I get any of this wrong.
Okay.
And she credits her experience to an eclectic mix of both direct practice, clinical supervision, and program development. And like many ethical entrepreneurs, I think for Susie, a lot of it comes down to that constant curiosity. A little bit about her business. They focus primarily on behavioral health solutions, which are accessible and affordable, something that's critically needed right now. All of their services are delivered through a HIPAA-compliant platform and covered by in-network insurances, something that they need to remind folks continually. This is
including Medicare and Medicaid, which is really rare.
Yes.
Especially Medicaid.
And yeah, so they provide in-office outpatient therapies, and they've currently still 25, Susie? Therapists?
We're still at 25. Yep. We added 25 clinicians. We went from 1 to 25 in 3 months once the pandemic hit. I will never hire 25 people again at the same time or onboard them. And so now we're working at reaching homeostasis and increasing our program based on the clinician's interests and areas of expertise. We've added medication management, group services, senior care services. We have a program called Boomer to Zoomer that we're, and actually if you check out our GoFundMe page too, we are giving tablets to seniors who are in isolation in nursing homes right now. And we're providing not only direct outpatient individual therapy, but also group therapy, and then we're developing social recreational programming for them. So the focus of that therapy in dealing with the anxiety and the trauma they're facing right now in isolation and the lack of social bonds and connections or access to them is helping them use that tablet. So it's kind of the therapist is a bit IT support and a whole lot, it's like clinical IT support, to be able to use that tablet with others outside of therapy. And then the social rec opportunities, we're an affiliate now with GVSU, and our interns are going to be running things like bingo, trivia night, campfire stories, improv, other social recreational activities online with those seniors. It's all covered by Medicare.
Wow, that's really impressive.
So if you want to sponsor a senior by purchasing a tablet, I'd say they're about anywhere from $35 to $80, depending where we get them from. But we do have a GoFundMe out there to help sponsor tablets for senior citizens.
And there are so many organizations right now that serve populations like that are trying to figure out how to get both the hardware into the hands of people and the technical knowledge into the heads of people. But you guys were pretty uniquely positioned for that already. Huh.
Yep, because we didn't, this has been something that I've been working on building the business and for 4 years. So unlike a lot of other practices that jumped to telehealth during the pandemic, we have, I think now we're up to 130 pages of policies and procedures. We're on our way to becoming getting credentialed as a facility and getting Joint Commission accreditation. We have, so it was, for us, it's more about, and specifically with seniors, evaluating their technology literacy, which is a word that I'd never heard prior to this project. And so I think because we've got some of these other basic needs in telehealth taken care of from an organization standard, we're able to really kind of think, okay, so like what else do we need to measure and evaluate, and how else can we make this process run more smoothly? So we actually are partnering with some nursing homes in Michigan right now to have the one area that we need help with is caregivers or nursing staff, individuals, to type in the network password. And that's really all we're down to with that program in terms of barriers right now.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely interesting. Although it does remind me that even the concept of telebehavioral health or telehealth is still relatively new to most audiences. So when you have to explain that to folks, when you have to explain what it is that you do, how do you sum it up for everybody?
Coming in this field, I think, when I joined the field years ago, the field was making a shift from using the term mental health to behavioral health, because mental health is more stigmatizing. So a lot of people, though, when you say behavioral health over the past 15 years, it still hasn't really caught on. So when I started the business, and I started under a different name, and I changed the name to Telebehavioral Health US. This is how the conversations would go, even with the insurance companies I would call in, is, what's the name of your organization? Telebehavioral Health. What? Telebehavioral Health US. What? Okay, it's like mental health, but like behavioral health, but TELEBE. Almost every time I had to actually spell it out. Since the pandemic, and even with our Google searches on our ads and our website for 4 years, the main search words were therapist, therapy near me, depression, anxiety. The second day, I can't remember, it was the first week or the second week of the lockdown, our search words were telebehavioral health. That was our number one search word. Wow. And that was really kind of a moment for me, because I knew I would no longer have to ever spell the word telebehavioral out to anybody ever again. And then hearing it used, hearing that it used on TV, I remember hearing and say it numerous times, and it hasn't stopped. So, or even just telehealth too. And so like, having the awareness increase has made a huge difference, because for the past years, it's been something that, people haven't really been super sure of. And I thought those people were mostly clinicians, because it has kind of a bad rap. And the reason why it has a bad rap is because you have, dozens of software companies out there online advertising themselves as telehealth companies or telebehavioral health companies or behavioral healthcare organizations on the front end of their website, but on the back end, they all say they're not. And I don't know if I can mention them by name, but almost every platform out there that you can think of, like ones that would rhyme with Chalks Mace, actually they've improved their game quite a bit, so I have to give them credit. Every single one of them search the name of the platform and then type in terms and conditions, and you will see they're not bound by HIPAA. They might say they respect it, but because they're a software company, they're not bound by it. They also will tell you that the service you're receiving is not therapy. They prevent their clinicians from diagnosing, assessing, providing recommendations, creating a treatment plan, integrating care, and forget about talking with anyone outside of that client, which are all integral parts of therapy by definition. And so I think that therapists saw kind of what was going on in that world and thought it was pretty exploitive, and it is. Another reason it's exploitive is because those companies do no oversight of their clinicians. So you have 6,000 clinicians to 10,000 clinicians out there operating in a can with no direct oversight, and that increases so much risk to people. They cherry pick, they're deceptive about their insurance practices, and most of them can't even say meet or get therapy. or it is therapy. So you see things like talk with a therapist, chat with a counselor, see a counselor on their websites. We're the only ones that can say, by definition, same therapy, different couch, that is now across state lines and working a national model that I'm aware of. And so the reason why that logo is so important to us, that motto, same therapy, different couch, is because that's the definition of telehealth and telemedicine, is it has to be the same CPT code, the same service you provide in office through a video communications platform. And so that's what makes us unique to other people. So when we started meeting with clinicians at the time of the shutdown and letting them know what we were offering, a lot of them they didn't believe that we were offering what we were offering, which is the ability to work for yourself at higher wages, work from home, more flexible schedules, no more productivity standards, and partnering with you to run your own business. We take care of their needs so they can take care of those in need. Since I've onboarded 25 clinicians, we've had 5 of them come over full time. It does take about 3 months for a clinician to build their practice up. And we have right now 25 clinicians all building their practice up the same referral stream. So it's slower going than it would like. It really does right now require them to partner with us quite a bit on marketing to fill their own caseloads. But we're getting there. And so we've had 5 come over full time, I believe, 4 or 5, and we have almost all the other ones are in agreement that once they can get to capacity, they would like to come over full time. So it's been nice to be able to see kind of that response from this field that for a long time I think shied away from telehealth.
So as a small but growing organization that's trying to both attract qualified clinicians and at the same time find customers and onboard all of these people who are dealing with new concepts and new terminology, simultaneously are seeing a number of organizations claiming to provide the services they're looking for, or providing incomplete or inferior versions. How do you deal with that? All that confusion, some of it organic and natural, some of it by design.
So you had mentioned earlier that you like understanding processes and like systems and stuff, and me too. I love creating like how-tos and walkthroughs. And so one of the reasons why it took me so long to build the business, because it was like building a sandcastle, one grain of sand at a time. And I did it all on my own, no investment. So I'm a social worker by trade and by birth. And I had to develop, policies were okay because I'm that kind of social worker. Like I love policy. I love teaching policy class. I like understanding policies, but building a website, getting all the flow and things going, understanding even just platforms like DocuSign and how they work, doing all the billing and credentialing on my own initially, really just piecing everything together. But my goal was to put it together so eventually it would have seamless processes, good flow, and we could onboard people. I always knew the onboarding would happen where it would suddenly be a big wave. I didn't expect this, and so really it's the first thing I did was reach out to people in the past who have been on very strong teams with me and brought them on board as my right-hand people, being autistic and not always having the right affect and demeanor. And, one minute I'm like T-Rex, the next minute I'm like unicorn shooting rainbows on my butt, like everything's happy. And so I had to get people that I also knew me pretty well. And not from a personal stance, but knew me from a former supervisor stance. So I brought on our clinical director and our practice manager, Kelly and Stephanie, and we started piecing out roles, because at that point I did an org chart of the whole organization. It was one box and then 9 little boxes under me, And so we started just really making sure that everyone had their roles. There's a huge sense of pressure and urgency right now because there's so much that we could be building and we could be doing when we want to be doing it all. But we have to take the time to make sure that these processes are seamless and that everybody is trained well. So that's, really it's about balancing that pressure, internal and external, to grow, but also, and time is a thing for me personally. Timing is way more important than actual time frames. And so getting the organization, the people I'm bringing on board, to move away from that mentality of time frames, you know. And for me, it's more about the time being right and us being able to be present with each other and focus on the things in that moment. So really encouraging them, like, it's okay if this is taking you longer than you think. It's okay if you feel like you have more questions. There's a lot of questions, and really just making sure, because I've noticed that time after time again, is that training and onboarding in this field is a thing. And when you're making a shift to telehealth, where common little hegemonic ritual daily things they did in person could equate to a HIPAA violation online or a high-tech violation and get us on that HIPAA wall of shame, we really have to focus on training. And so that's the first thing we did is define roles and really make sure everyone gets trained and has the time to let all of that training marinate and soak in. The other piece with training is we have a mentality of show me, you know. So having learning disabilities, not being, I'd graduated high school with a 1.9, I was about a rebel of my class, is when somebody would show me how something's done after explaining to me a few times, it was the same process of forgetting, bad working memory, getting distracted. So we say to them, walk me through what you're doing. And the difference in being in an office with someone and having them show you, as opposed to being online, only seems to be our anxiety with silence and being online. So I might be sitting on my computer not saying something for a minute. It's the equivalent to me rifling through my filing cabinet, but we have to let those moments we have to get accustomed to those too, and not let those change, you know, our ability to access the information or have someone show us what they might need. Is take your time and show me how you do it, and then I'll fill in the gaps with where things need to be corrected. And that's maybe more of a micro point, but that seems to be helpful with our clinicians as well.
Yeah, that seems so universally applicable. It also makes me think I might just schedule a 30-minute webinar with nothing but silence. Everybody,
Right, there you go.
eye contact.
We're just used to just being human beings, not human doings, human beings.
Mm.
You know, and I love that phrase. Like, I don't know, I can't remember where it came from, but I've heard it over and over again. But the other thing we did with clinicians early on in interviewing them is we asked them, if you had all of your needs met, what would you do? Because we wanted to know what they would do once they were able to self-actualize. I work with a population that is predominantly female, predominantly underpaid, predominantly overworked. The workforce conditions for social workers are terrible, and we've never really been able to see them self-actualize. So, and it's such an important part of humanity, is to self-actualize. And so those conversations were really interesting, because first it was like, what do you mean if all my needs are met? It's like, well, do you have a passion project? So some of these things started to come up, and we're like, what we want them to do is develop their self-actualization, develop that project. We'll help. What program would that look like? You know, we had an intern who come on board recently who has been impacted by sickle cell, and there's so little information on sickle cell out there online and support groups. And so we said, well, why wait to create your program on sickle cell or whatever it is, and why not start now while you're an intern, and we can help, we can support you in developing, you know, a web page with resources. Should we do a support group so she can start her self-actualization with what she wants to do in life now, and not wait till it's like smothered out of her? So that's been, having that happen has created opportunities where we are now, instead of seeking investment, what we're doing is looking at sweat equity opportunities for these people who have stepped up as clinical directors, to make them to make it, an employee-owned organization to some degree, and to also give them incentive and buy-in to do these things while they're also building their caseload if they have time. And so that's that mentality of, you know, this is a rocket ship. I've basically laid the structure of it, and it's no longer mine. It's up to what everyone that comes on board makes it, and what they want to do. And if they want to come in and just see clients and feel more secure, that's great, because I know as we take care of their needs, at some point they're going to self-actualize. I've been working with social workers for decades, and I've seen what they can do when they can't self-actualize. And now being able to see what they do when they have the opportunity is absolutely mind-blowing.
There are so many parallels. I know your prerogative has been to work within your field, but I can't think of a single industry or a single organization that couldn't benefit from providing that same level of structured support for
And the
their
educational
team.
institution. Sorry, I just cut you off.
No, no, go ahead.
You know, a lot of it comes from me being a student.
Mm.
You know, I was not encouraged to take aptitude tests like the SAT. I think I took the ACT. I was told that I should go to skills and trade school, which is totally fine because I don't think a college degree is a great idea for most people that get them. Um, but you know, and that I would be a bus driver, which I still would love to be someday. I think it'd be great to be a bus driver. But
As soon as you're self-actualized, you can go do it.
exactly. But you know, thank goodness I stayed curious and I love learning, and I found a small university, small college out in Colorado. I got into college on a fluke. So my acceptance letter literally says you're in, but we need your SAT scores and your transcripts. Like they were really low on enrollment. So, but it didn't prevent me from getting in when I was like, well, I haven't taken those. And, you know, and then academically I ended up graduating with honors from Grand Valley and then going back to teach as an instructor there. And having someone that looks at the world differently and having that different brain and my different way of doing things has always you know, obviously like helped me see different ways of doing things, but being stuck in bureaucracies and in a world where it's like, well, everybody has to fit this mold of skills and abilities. And so what we're trying to do, especially with our core team of people running the organization, is what are your strengths? What are your deficits? And matching people with deficits and strengths. So I'm really bad at organizing time, hitting send on messages, hitting save on calendar events, making sure the right meeting ID, you know, for the webinar is on the right thing, and keeping things really consistent. So that's why I have Stephanie, our practice manager. She helps do those things. She's very good at that. I'm also not that great at creating space for other people outside of therapy. With the business, because I take on more of a lecture or teaching role. Kelly is an amazing clinician that is able to create space in the midst of chaos and crisis and growth and development. So she's the one that holds that clinical space for the clinicians and oversees our group supervision, does case consults with them. And so we call Kelly the heart, Stephanie's the hands, I'm the head. Deb Anson, our director of substance use programming, is the backbone, and Amy Mansfield, who is the director of senior service programming, is the face, because she's does such a great job presenting things. And again, me being an alien in this world, not always the best person to be the face of the industry of the organization. So I really wish more organizations would hire and handle HR from that stance of not making we really limit ourselves when you expect everyone to be able to do the same thing.
On that note of giving people time and sticking to timelines.
Sorry.
No. I've let us run a little bit long. You're really making me rethink the 30-minute only format. I feel like we could keep going for so long.
6 hours.
Yeah, I want to make sure we leave a couple of minutes to get to questions.
Yeah.
And fortunately, some of the ones that we're seeing jive with what I already wanted to ask. And you know, I apologize in advance. We won't be able to get to more than a question or two. But I'm seeing different variations of the same thing, and that's essentially for small resource-strapped organizations, be it a startup or a small business, or I mean even a nonprofit. They're, you know, oftentimes in the same position. What can these organizations do to start to think about the mental well-being of their employees? Again, assuming they don't have much bandwidth or resources to bring to that.
So mental illness was the leading source of disease burden in the United States. That might have changed over the past few months, but it has been for a long time. And it's if you're an employer, especially if you're in a health provider shortage area, I would review your benefits and see what your mental health benefits are. If you have high deductibles with your benefit plans, then I would contact a company like us and set up an EAP contract. Because even for, I don't know, like a consortium of small businesses, even if there was a handful of small businesses that wanted to get together in an area and contract with us for a prorated session amount or something, but to make sure that your employees have access to those benefits for mental health treatment. It's prior to the pandemic, it's just important for workforce health, productivity, you know, keeping the discussion of mental health on the table to help reduce the stigma, and giving people also, you know, access to maybe some presentations by clinicians, or getting community members involved to come talk with your staff about ways to stay healthy. But I would definitely say, as a business owner, to make sure more so than right now that it's on the forefront of our minds. Our clinicians coming on board, one of the things people don't understand is working from home seems like a dream, but it's not. And watching the country shut down and watching everyone move over to work from home model, I noticed some of these stages of work from home development that I also went through when it happened, where I was like, this is a dream come true, yay! And then you realize how all these externalized sources of motivation make you who you are. You know, like even having to get up and shower to get out of the house in a day, or having that drive home from work, or stopping at the gym on the way home, or I used to stop at the tanning booth. And then all these things, you know, kind of made me who I was. And so you want to make sure that you're still creating that structure. It's real tempting to not. We have a TBH uniform in house now. It's a art fish jumper from Amazon that's available for $24.99. I have like 6 of them. It's the new Moo, and I'm now wearing jeans with a waistband today. So we want to, it's about creating that, helping create that structure from home. Our clinicians right now, all of us included, our negative core beliefs are on fire because of the pandemic, because of the state of the country right now, the racial unrest that's come to light, and you know, everything that I'm seeing us be impacted by it too. Mm-hmm. So it's to be expected. So I think normalizing it too, and say yes, like it's to be expected to be anxious and fearful and angry and disappointed and experience all these emotions. You know, we try to avoid emotions like anger and jealousy, and there's no point. They're natural emotions. It's just, what do you do once you feel them? So I would open discussions about mental health right now, I think, are really helpful. And even saying, me too, I feel the same way, you know, like it can help someone like, oh, I'm not the only one that's really struggling with this stuff right now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that alone, we could have a 30-minute conversation on how employers with really limited resources, you know, benefits aren't even an option for them. What can they do? But
anytime you want me back on, I'll come back on and talk anytime.
Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, I think we could definitely niche down. I'm gonna share my screen real quick so we can wrap up, and so folks know how they can get a hold of you if they have more questions. So I've got a couple of ways to connect with you up here. Obviously, visiting your website, reaching out by email or phone. You guys have a great social media presence also. Any other, are you available in case folks want to reach out directly with questions?
Yeah, I would, so my email address is smarozevich@telebehavioralhealth.us, which is a nightmare. I didn't think about that one. Yeah. Very easy. Yeah, you get lost at the third O or on the second Z somewhere. So info@telebehavioralhealth.us is the easier one to remember. It goes straight to Stephanie. Anything that wants to get passed on to me, they can pass on to that. That phone number actually rings into my house. Facebook is probably the least best way to get a hold of me because I don't check my messages very often, but go to the website. If it's someone who's interested in registering for service or signing up for an appointment, it's 3 clicks. All of our insurance companies are on there. We're super transparent about it. If your insurance company isn't listed, still still fill out that request form, and staff will try to figure out how we can still help you. If you're a small business and you want help getting treatment for your staff, or you want us to come in and do a presentation about our services to your staff or your company, contact us through the website, that info email. And if you want to partner with us in some way, because our mission is to increase access to affordable and evidence-based behavioral healthcare services. If you have a way to help contribute to our mission, we'd love to talk with you. We love forming community partnerships. We can never have enough of those. I'm also offering right now, as I'm training interns, if you're a provider and you're curious about what do I need to know to get online, reach out to me. I could slide you into some of our intern trainings that cover some of that stuff. If you'd like me to come train your staff and I have to create a whole training for it, that's a different thing. There would be some cost involved with that. But we really want to help people bring this model, because this model, we believe, helps us leverage savings to increase worker payment and change those workforce conditions of social workers. So we're always curious about ways that we can partner with people. And that's what it's all about in this universe, is networks and connections and bonds and,
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to plug my own networks for a second here.
Yeah.
a couple of great ways to stay connected with Good Impacts. We've got our YouTube channel up, which by the end of the day, we'll have this webinar recording and all of our previous webinars. Please feel free to go check that out and subscribe. We need subscribers so we can get a dedicated URL that we get to pick instead of the default gobbledygook one. We would love to hear any thoughts on this webinar or any of the other webinars. And you can always reach me by dropping me a line at nick@goodimpacts.com. I've got the URL up for our YouTube channel here, but yeah, unless you're really ambitious, I'll go ahead and send out an email after this to all of our attendees just to get some feedback and share that link. So I think that's it. Susie, any parting words for the fine folks?
I wish I had something really prophetic to say, but
it's still value packed. Don't even worry.
Take care of yourselves, and if you're having a hard time, doing that, reach out to us, and we'll see what we can do to help.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.